Hello, and thanks for joining us for Political Talk on another PolitiPod Live. I'm Tom Bickle,
And I'm Matt Nisanoff.
here to discuss current political events. And if you'd like to let us know what you think, please send an email to politipod@gmail.com. See that along the screen at the bottom there. Let us know how are we doing so far. We'd love to hear from you. As for tonight, we'll cover election results from across the U.S., some plain news about SNAP, House of Representatives, news about the White House resident, and a word on former elected officials. We will also have our regular segments, the episode Terrorism Bing Bong, and an election central report with word on upcoming elections. We'll start with election results. Take it away, Matt.
Election results indeed. Last night was quite a night across the country, as you've already heard, I'm sure, from most every media that there is. Even the local media are trying to tie the stories into how things went in the elections, and almost every state had something going on somewhere in it. So there's plenty of news from every place. A thing that is noteworthy is the Democrats did very well. There's no one who disputes that. The headline stories, of course, were the governor's positions in New Jersey and Virginia. They tend to go against the president's party in the first election a year after he's elected, and that held perfectly true this
Oh,
time as
brother.
well. Right. So not only Democrats, but both women. So women Democrats swept the governorships that were on the ballot.
Oh, God.
And yeah, what do you think about that?
I mean, this country seems to be afraid to vote for women sometimes, so that's very encouraging. Uh, I'm glad to see it.
And particularly noteworthy because the women who have run for president have had a lot of issues and troubles, but here's that sort of the state level. They're starting to pop up and starting to take positions of leadership, and that's of course a positive. We'll see what happens in 2028, and we'll see who works their way through the Democratic nomination process as well. Another, of course, big story is the mayor over in New York City, that Democratic Socialist Zoran Mamdani won the election, and it was. If you were in New York City, I think it was pretty. There were a couple of communities that were trying to desperately make it a scary thing. However, if you went almost anywhere else, it was seen as this is the guy who's going to win, in part because he was the Democratic nominee. Everybody else who was running, there was a Republican, Curtis Sliwa, and there were a couple of independent candidates. And when you're going against a Democrat in New York, you have a bit of a tougher run. And this time it paid off for Zoran Mamdani having the Democratic nomination. The leader of the independent pack was Andrew Cuomo. And am I saying that right? I don't know.
Yeah.
He
Not
was,
familiar with that name?
he was, yeah, he was. He led the charge of the independents. He took out Eric Adams, who is the current mayor, who did not get into the Democratic primary, so he had to run as an independent. He complained about how both Mandami and Cuomo were uh, basically they're rich brats, is how he presented them, and that he was the only one who was really a working man, like
Hmm.
the average working man in New York, which kind of clashed with a couple of weeks when he started as mayor and made his whole shtick about how he had to go out to the nightclubs to prove how much of a nightlife we have in New York, an enjoyable lifestyle, and spent much time and money on the New York club scene. But although he made this pitch for being the working man and And by being the actual mayor, the incumbency usually has a lot of weight behind it. It did not this time, and he actually wound up withdrawing from the race, as I mentioned. And even though he called Cuomo a snake and a liar, he the very next week endorsed him. So I don't know what that tells you about the job.
Adorable. Very malleable principles. That's what that tells you. And retail, available at retail cost.
Exactly. So, but it's a big story because now people who the Cuomo supporters want to continue sowing fear and uh, saying whatever they think it will take to help undermine him. At Cuomo's speech, he did say both things. Basically, he did say, that it was the right fight to make, and he was standing up because somebody had to. And then he said, but now he's mayor, so we got to give him a chance. And the entire room started booing, and there was a lot of noise and a lot of, he said, oh, no, 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 don't do that.
Oh,
Well,
we're better than that. Oh, really?
after several months of throwing everything at the kitchen sink, talking about how he's going to make the next 9/11 happen, and all these, he said that on a podcast, and all these, horrible things about um, just because the guy has a particular religious set of values that Cuomo doesn't agree with. Then he's being the martyr, I guess, in his speech and saying
Gotcha.
how we have to give him a chance now. So, uh, unfortunately or weirdly, the Democratic Party's state leader, Jay Jacobs, who did not endorse Zoran, he did come out after the election and said almost, it wasn't verbatim, but it was downright close. Uh, we got to give him a chance. He's the mayor now. We really have to all pull together behind him and give him the
Huh.
chance that he's earned by winning the. Okay, well, let's see you do that. That would be quite the thing if that were to actually be true. Um, Anything else on New York?
I wanted to say, and I don't know, maybe it's just, maybe it shows how elementary I am that I'm just coming to terms with this. But I mean, Mom Donnie draws such a sharp contrast between establishment Democrats and progressives. It seems like that's one of the reasons it's such a compelling story is that he's popular. He talks about real solutions, and yet you've got establishment Democrats, billionaires backing Cuomo. Uh, they don't want to endorse Mom Donnie. Hakeem Jeffries was on TV on Sunday saying he's not the future of the Democratic Party. I mean, why step on the guy? He's about to win you New York. What do you want, Cuomo? What do you want, Sliwa? Uh, anyway, I don't know why they have to turn their nose up at this person so much. And then and then the double whammy of the Cuomo tweeted or whatever it was, put out on social media that if you vote for Mom Donnie, Trump's just going to hammer the city. He's going to make your life hard. He's going to send National Guard troops. When you've got how cynical, not only cynical, but when you've got an establishment Democrat, for better or worse, siding with, like joining forces basically with Trump to coerce the electorate not to vote for the guy they're going to vote for, who is winning over the election fair and square. None of this, all they have is smears, apparently. Why resort to smears if you have anything else in the fucking chamber? They don't. So they call him, what? Terrorist? A dirty Muslim? That's terrible. And when you've got the establishment, I'm sorry, I got so far afield with my rage. When you've got establishment Democrats joining elbows with Trump to coerce the electorate away from the person they like, I mean, what? That's That's terrifying, politically terrifying. They would rather work together against him. Oy. Anyway, so that bothered me.
They make
And
and they did make a great show of saying that, oh, we don't like each other, and Trump's had the DOJ pull a suit, tried to pull a suit on Cuomo for something or other, and but in the end, Trump also came out and endorsed Cuomo, saying,
that's
"Oh, he's
right.
a bad Democrat, but you
Right.
should vote
I
for him."
hate him. Vote for this son of a bitch. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And, um, so there's a great deal of hypocrisy in that. I mean, Cuomo's big thing was that he would stand up to Trump. Um, how? By going to have champagne in the new ballroom
That's
with
right.
him? That he'd really give him a snootful there.
By by
Um,
receiving his gentle endorsement. That's how.
exactly.
By taking a compliment, by golly, that's how you work Trump. You just give
Yeah,
him everything you want and smile, and then everything will be fine. It seems to work for everybody else.
right,
Anyway, and
right.
then I'm a fan of French culture, and I'm not a good student, but I try to pay attention. I try to read the occasional news story and take uh, take an interest. There's a guy named Bernard Henri Levy, Bernard Henry Levi, in more white guy English pronunciation. Bernard Henri Levy, and he's this gentleman of a certain age. I don't know, late 50s, early 60s, and he's. Do you know the name at all?
No, I do not. I don't think I've come across that.
Well, he's more well known in French news circles. I don't know what to make of him. Being from a different culture and not really speaking the French, he's made himself a known character in U.S. media uh, a few times over the last. Well, there was Russia and Ukraine. He's very pro Ukraine. He's very pro Israel. Um, and so, okay, great. But then I saw the last post I saw of his was on Facebook today, and it really set me back a minute because he called Mom Donnie. He was like really sharply against Mom Donnie being the mayor of New York, saying that he's what do you say? He was a terrorist or something like that. Uh, yeah, and it escapes me exactly what he said at this moment of truth, but he said something like that. Something he apparently bought the smears. And I don't think of Bernard Henri Levy as such a right wing guy, but maybe I just don't know what I'm looking at because I'm not familiar. I'm not up to speed with their culture as much as I am on my own.
Right. Well, and also he could have just been taken in. I mean, that was the message consistently from even before the primary.
Yeah.
So that's when that's all you hear, especially when you're outside, as you pointed out, it's an entirely different culture, and you're just hearing these things. But at the same time, you know, this Macron shift to the right and sort of, um, I don't know what to call it. I mean, almost a desperation to ensure that the right has power, where he keeps naming right wing prime ministers. They keep getting put down because the assembly is majority left, and it seems so
Oh,
incredibly tone deaf. There must be something behind it, of course, but
yeah.
it just seems like how to misread a room.
Speaking of misreading, I misquoted. Mr. Mamdani's anti-Semitism is not an opinion; it is a crime. He says he's anti-Semitic, so I
Yeah,
misquoted him there. I got to take that back immediately. I hate saying misquoting somebody, but anyway, he says, but anyway, he calls him an anti-Semite. So, and I haven't seen the guy be an anti-Semite, and I try to pay attention.
yeah. I mean, he's even come out specifically and said, "We need to protect every New Yorker. We're here to protect the Jewish community. We're here to
Yeah.
protect the Muslim. We want to make certain that things are affordable for every community, for the Jewish community, for the men and the
Hmm.
men." And so, I mean, he's gone out of his way to show that that's not the case. He's, as far as I know, and I've been to a couple of things where he's spoken at some candidate rallies and that kind of stuff, and you get to hear from a handful of people, and he was one of them. He never said anything that could even be misinterpreted. The reason they don't have any video of any of his statements where he's saying these kind of things is because there's nothing to show. You look at what he's saying, and he's saying the same sort of thing. His whole thing is, I want to make New York affordable.
Right.
It's not even a radical position. I want to make it affordable so you can get around, so we'll have free buses. I want you to have childcare that's universal and free so that parents will be able to go to work if they have to go to work, there'll be a place for the kids to go and to be cared for and to be taken, that the parent can be assured that the child is okay. Um, this is not radical socialism or anything further to the left from that. So I don't. It's nice to have something to say, and of course that is something that is scary when you say somebody is a communist. I mean, the whole Red Scare, the various Red Scares in the country, where that used to get people arrested and thrown in jail or killed, prove that it's a powerful statement. Uh, it's no longer got that kind of power, but it is certainly something that is scary and fearful. And people in the Jewish community, there are some who pick up on that and they don't want to explore any further. They want to take that message that they're given and run with it. And in the Orthodox communities, there are plenty of people who simply believe the first thing Cuomo said and aren't exactly going into listening to speeches or doing any sort of outreach or any sort of a research. He's Muslim, he must be bad, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And
How
I think that will backfire.
absolutely filthy. Uh, I don't get on my high horse a lot, I don't think. I like to think I'm pretty down to earth, but you know, how sad that slurs and lies have so much truck that have so much effectiveness, that are so handy and so commonly used. Uh, there's not even it's do you have no facts that you can sell? Do you have no ideas? You have to go and look and say, look, and sneer at him because he's brown. Pathetic, pathetic. It's disgusting. Uh, and yeah, the guy, I don't know. Somebody said Cuomo would move out of the state. Maybe that was just a joke meme that I saw. May not be if I don't know if he said it or not, but it's okay with me. I saw another meme that said Alan Dershowitz would shoot himself in the head on live TV. I didn't see him say that, but you know, I'm not one to welch on a barbet. I hope he isn't either. Uh,
We'll have to see if any of those things are true. I mean,
yeah,
I heard that Cuomo said it. I heard that George Santos, of all people, said that he would move out of New York, and a loud cheer was heard for miles. And
right.
uh, the latest one was just before the election was 1 million people have claimed that they will move out of New York if Mandami wins. And I'm like, hey,
Right.
talk about making the city affordable.
Exactly.
That,
Traffic will
that
ease up. You go
that'd be
by
a one
welcome it.
exactly. That'd be a wonderful step. And I give him 30 days. I mean, let's give him a little time to get things back.
Right. Show me.
But
Exactly. 2 words.
exactly,
Show me.
let's see it. Another kind of show me thing is what happened out in California. And there was one thing on the ballot, which was Prop 50, the idea of we are going to redistrict, we're doing it, and we want the people to have a say in it, as opposed to, say, Texas, that gerrymandered itself for 5 extra seats, and they didn't bother to listen to anyone or anything other than the president. And they said, got to give them credit. They listened to the president and they listened to their own party inside of Texas, and their Senate just went ahead and did it. Well, California said, "Well, we're going to do it, but let's see what the people think. Let's see. We'll put it as a ballot prop and have people vote." And people voted. It was a big one. It was one of those results where it was 80-20 or 79-21 or something like that. I mean, it was overwhelming in the response to support it, and rightfully so. As both of us have pointed out previously, the gerrymandering and the redistricting thing, you don't win by sitting back and clicking your tongue and saying, "Gosh, that's a horrible thing they're doing over there." Um, so uh, places are all over are doing. Texas did it. Indiana's getting a lot of pressure to do it, but says it can't because of the Senate there. There's Utah may have to do it, even though it doesn't want to, because it might backfire and give Democrats 2 seats, because they've gerrymandered it for so long that the redistricting might wind up having to give districts to the Democrats because they've uh, over overdone it. So
Yeah, I've heard that termed dummy mandering when you over gerrymander so much that you hurt yourself.
that's excellent. Um, some other issues that came up across the country. Colorado passed a ballot measure where they said we are going to have the wealthy families chip in so that we can have school lunches for every single child. We are going to feed our children, and there'll be and it will be on because there will be an increase of income from the wealthy families. How wonderful to hear! I mean, that's
I know,
exactly
right?
right. Yeah, so heartening.
Did our timeline split somehow? Am I still here? What
Right.
year is it?
Well, and in Maine, there is even a ballot proposition about uh, setting up a series of red flag laws
Yeah.
for people who have committed crimes and not allowing them to be able to purchase guns. It's one of those things that just so common sense you wouldn't think there wasn't that law in place, but
Yeah.
there isn't, and it has to be done state by state. And Maine was brave enough to put it on the ballot, and folks in Maine voted for it. So there's some other good news as well. Actually, Maine also had a ballot proposition about voting and having very severe restrictions on photo IDs that were required, and 2 or 3 other steps that you had to go through before you could vote. And voters uh, voted it down. So once again, more heartening news from the elections from last night. There's just time after time, there's other issues that are popping up, both ballot propositions and candidates who are winning, that actually have governing in mind and in their hearts. And in Texas has a seat, Texas House seat 18, and it's been left unfilled for quite a while now. The person who was elected to the seat went to Washington and within a few weeks had died. So the seat became empty. They needed to fill it. And of course, Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, did everything he could to stand in the way, to postpone it, to not make, to make certain that he put it off until November. And so November is finally here, and they actually did have the election. Actually, there were a handful of people running. So what happened was there will have to be a runoff election. The top 2 people will move on to a runoff, both Democrats. So in that sort of election, it's that thing where you can have anybody run, but the top 2 people, if the top person doesn't get 50%, then the top 2 people move on to a runoff. That's what's happened, and both are Democrats. So the seat will be blue. Then there's, of course, Alita Gravalia and her tribulations with trying to get sworn into the House of Representatives, and Michael Johnson doing absolutely everything again, every excuse in the book. Can't do it because I did it for another person, but their family was in town. I did it temporarily. I did it,
Nonsensical.
yeah, exactly. Um, anything more about Texas that's on your mind?
No, sir. No, sir. Please lead on.
Sure. There was a very interesting mayor's race for Cincinnati, Ohio, and that's because the mayor was running for re-election. But more interesting,
Yes.
the Republican candidate was J.D. Vance's half brother, and a
Oh
local
man,
pastor.
that must have carried a ton of weight, like a
Yeah,
lead weight.
exactly. Uh,
Delightful.
the cement shoes of half brotherhood
Oh yeah,
led to
nepotism
a
not all cracked up to be all it's cracked up to be these days.
well, that led in this case to a Cincinnati politician found at the bottom of the Ohio River, um, figuratively.
Oh, okay. I was
Uh,
gonna say that's less funny.
and this was, yeah, this is Corey Bowman,
Hmm.
uh, Bauman. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Bauman.
Let's do it.
Their family not always so strict with names and keeping them for too long, so sure, Corey Bauman. Um,
Change them like you change your shoes.
exactly. So, with the final results, this is one of those races where once again it was 79-21. I mean, he got walloped. The folks in Cincinnati really wanted to get a point across, and they did. It's pretty clear what happened there. There were two Supreme Court races in different states that were drawing attention. One was in Pennsylvania, where the three justices were running for reelection. They run for 10-year terms, and they do go through the election process. And there was a lot of talk before. This is one of those things where uh, the image building that consultants bring into play. This in this case, they brought into play that at least two of the three were in serious jeopardy. Two of them would be gone, and it would open up an opportunity because while the governor of Pennsylvania is a Democrat and would nominate Democrats, the state Senate in Pennsylvania is Republican, and that they would somehow get into the act and replace the people that were nominated with Republicans. Only problem is reality. And in this
That'll
case,
slow you down every time.
some fun stuff. In this case, all three of the judges were elected 22% of the vote over what was needed. So they all had very strong showings. No one was in jeopardy. Two of them had 22%, one had 23%. So I guess there's the jeopardy. The other two only got 22% over what they needed. So Pennsylvania is in good shape. And the other Supreme Court case or election was up in Wisconsin, where there was a seat. There was said to be if this seat was filled, it would decide. It was one of those. It will make the decisions in the court because it's the odd seat, the last seat, and it's odd number, so it helps make decisions. And in that case, there was a Democrat and a Republican, maybe not on the maybe nonpartisan, listed as nonpartisan on the ballot, but very clearly there was one who was a Democrat, one who was a Republican, one who is the Democrat is more liberal, and one who was Republican is more conservative, and the liberal swept up the votes and is in. So Wisconsin is safe for the time being. We've seen some things happen in Wisconsin, so good to hear that it's all set. Anything on judges on your mind?
No, sir. Please carry on.
Okay. Um, well, and then the real question, I guess, is with and that's just a such a small sliver of things that happened, but there were a lot of there was clearly a blue wave across the country, and clearly is setting up first, hopefully setting up the belief that elections still do matter. There's a place in a role for them still where they do make a difference. And now having a blue wave in place, do we see a 2026 election where we're able to make some real gains, maybe the House of Representatives, and then we can see some actions against some of the crazier things that are being made up and happening coming out of the executive branch.
I'd
Um,
like to say that I'll try to say it as briefly as I can. Um, I'm really heartened to see that people seem to now be awake to the danger we're in and reacting to it. I feel like one of the main reasons, one of the big reasons we got the where we are and in such dire straits is because people check out on politics. I've definitely done it, and they don't pay attention until it's too late, and it's too late. And my fear was, and still is, but a little less so after last night's vote, that they would be able to close their fist, they, the authoritarians that are neutralizing Congress and making lapdogs of the Supreme Court. My fear has been that they will be able to close their fist before the American public even knows what's happening, before they have it even an inkling, because they're so checked out. It's really dangerous. And after tonight, the first chance we got after 9 months of this nonsense, this absolute bullshit, we voted against them as hard as we possibly could, apparently, or at least we could expect to. And it does show that a number of us, a sufficient number of us, are awake to the danger, and it's encouraging. And I was really worried that, again, that it would be too late by the time we were roused from our slumber, uh, there'd be nothing left to do. And it doesn't seem to be that way. This is very encouraging on that point.
And it is excellent point because people were allowing some things, horrendous things that certainly should never have happened in
We
America.
still are. We still are. I'm sorry I get excited, but and I interrupted you so rudely. But ICE arrests. I can't watch another woman being shoved to the ground and another guy having his head bashed in. I can't watch it, and it's still happening, and no one's stopping it. This is supposed to be a country of law and order, and the police are not showing up. These are crimes being committed. There are citizens and non-citizens alike being abused irrevocably, and they're not doing a shit about it, and it still nonpluses me. But at least we got, we're voting in the right direction, and that's really all you can do. You can't go out there and stop it yourself. They have guns and the backing of the courts, apparently. Certainly, the apathy of the police. All right, I'll stop.
Well, some of the judges will talk a little bit more about that, I think,
Yes,
in a few minutes. But first,
I
we
know.
want to get
I know I get carried away. Please feel free to correct me. I'm
not
inviting you.
not well. You're absolutely right, and that's the fact. So it's not off the mark.
Not out of
It's
line.
you're saying exactly the thing that's happening, and we all see it. We all know it, and so it is heartening to see finally that the mass of people are starting to figure out. No kings, elections. There's a tide turning, and maybe there'll be a general strike, and maybe there'll be some more actions to back the fact that we are seeing that it's going wrong, that it's already gone wrong, and that we need to react to that. We can't just sit and wait for somebody else to do something because there is nobody else. It's just us. So
Yep.
I agree with you. There's certainly nothing wrong with what you're saying. Um, and with that said, I'm going to move us on to the next issue. Our next issue is some of the things that are happening in aerospace news and what's going on there. There's first, I think everybody pretty much heard about the plane crash down in Louisiana, the UPS flight that crashed, killed a handful of people, left uh, double that wounded, and you can even see that there are videos of it where you see just a huge fireball, and it's not just a fireball; it's a fireball, and then it sort of kicks back, and there's a backdraft, I think it's called, where there's
Mm.
the fire takes up a second time and rolls back into the smoke, and it's horrifying. And it's not only horrible, but just seeing it is actually horrifying. And so, what is going on with air safety, which is a very good question because there's been a whole lot of things going wrong, and we're certainly not hearing about it. Um,
Listen, if there's ever an environment where things should go wrong, we're building that environment right now. It's absolutely crazy the stuff we're tolerating. We're not paying our aircraft traffic controllers anything. We're they're having to call in sick uh, so they can work their Uber job. Um, this administration, let's not forget, was birthed in airline hazard, in calamity, catastrophe, the death of I don't know how many dozens when that helicopter ran into that jet plane that was taking off, or plane into helicopter. Anyway, that collision should have never happened, and that was like what, a day, a week into the administration's tenure. Ridiculous. And now they're just strangling air traffic controllers. TSA agents aren't getting paid, if I understand right, if I'm not completely off base. These are not right conditions for a healthy industry, for safety. Are you kidding? Safety needs more people. It needs resources. It's going sloppy and on the cheap, and half a night's sleep and winging a prayer. That's how you kill people. And we're creating those conditions. I don't know what they think they're doing. I don't understand it. And I like to travel once in a great while when I can afford it. Uh, and I don't want to fly in this type of atmosphere. Oh my God. I don't know.
yeah,
It
what else?
dumbfounds me. I can't believe we're living through this.
Right, exactly. What else do you have to risk? That's just your life.
And for nothing. What is the for what good?
Oh, yeah, not there's nothing. There's nothing on the other side of the equation. And in fact, with the shutdown, with Trump's shutdown, we also have the extension of that shutdown to a point where they're even talking about closing down airports altogether. So I've heard different numbers, maybe.
Altogether? I hadn't heard that.
Well, I've heard up to 50%, 40%, 50%. Going to be
Wow.
some. Going to be it changes, and will continue to change until they actually do it. Of course, because part of it is hoping to build fear. So they want to just talk about how wrong things can go without actually, before they actually do it. But there was something that Sean Duffy had said. Do you know about
That's right.
that?
Yes, sir.
Right, where they'd be reducing air traffic by 10% at 40 high volume markets beginning on Friday, and the government would shut down if the government shutdown would not be ended by then. So literally blackmail. The extortion continues. You don't you don't want to play ball with us and do what we want. Well, we're gonna do some more. You shut down the airports, restrict people from getting food who are poor. What else? Where else can we go? Uh, we'll find out because they'll do it too, or at least
They
they'll
will.
threaten it. We'll see if
You
whether it
mentioned the
actually.
holidays. Uh, it's travel season, man. We're going to see each other, and they know damn well this is peak time to disrupt, and they're disrupting. You're going to give 40 different airports a 10% haircut just because? Out of what? And I saw it quoted that it's aimed at reducing the stress on air traffic controllers. Pay them if you want to reduce the stress. Pay them. That'll reduce the stress, you jackass.
Too
Anyway,
true. Too true.
it's just the
Um,
holidays, especially bad time. There's never a good time to screw with the airports, but at a time when more people are traveling, safety is at an increased issue. Uh, it's gobsmacking.
Fair point. Fair point. And that also brings us to our first segment, which you may recall at the beginning of the show. We have segments, and this one is terrorism bing bong. And we're talking about some of the things that have happened in and around the country. For starters, the whole incident up at Harvard, that initially it was reported as, of course, someone planting a bomb on a building and it was terrorism, and they didn't catch the guys, but they were following them and they knew who they were and they were going to get them. And then a little bit later, a couple of days go by, it becomes a different story. And apparently, what actually happened was there were two guys on top of the building who had some fireworks. The old cherry bombs, they make a big boom, and they were, you know, being stupid. Nobody's going to defend these guys for doing what they're doing, but what it is not is terrorism. It's somebody doing something stupid, and that's a um, different, different thing. This is the terrorism you want to see. It's something
Right.
where it's not
A couple of clowns
actually
farting around at college.
harmful. Right,
Right.
exactly. It's somebody doing something stupid, and okay, catch them, do something to them. We're
Right.
we're all set on that one. There were, however, in the elections, there were polling places, a polling place in New Jersey where a bomb threat was called. And actually, I heard about this happening at about a half dozen different places, not just in New Jersey. And there was a concerted effort to try to disrupt what was happening. It was clear that who was doing well and who was not. And so, of course, the next level is to try to disrupt uh, doing things like bomb threats. And they were checked out. The police did not close down the sites, but did investigate to make certain that things were safe, that people could continue, but they didn't disrupt what was happening because they wanted to find out exactly what was happening. And it was, fortunately, it was nothing. Do you know about any of those two, or
I don't. I'm not well schooled on those.
that's all right. There's two. There were two more people arrested up in Michigan over Halloween time, where apparently they had a plot to do something, but they never actually got it off the ground.
Is that from
So
last
once
week?
again, yeah, yeah,
I recall a little bit about that. I recall that Cash Patel was very quick to declare, that he took down some really heavy duty terrorism ring and was light on the facts. And it just sounds he has to pump everything up to, you know, nuclear level. He always has to aggrandize everything as a Jack Reacher novel, sort of Mission Impossible. We dominated. That's how we roll. Huh. And he has none of the gravitas for that, and the facts never bear it out. And to the point where I think he weakens his cases because he either displays evidence or displays a bias towards the case. All these things, you can't believe anything he says. Everything has been fictionalized. It's all anyway. It just
it
it
is, and
shows.
yeah, yeah, and he's the same guy who, prior to uh, prior to the presidential election, he was out there blasting away, the Epstein files and the list that they have to be released. They need to be released day one. This is what we need. This is a terrible thing, and we've got to do something about it. And the best thing is to know and sunshine. And now he's the head of the FBI. It's, well, these things don't really even exist if you look into it.
Right.
They weren't on Pam Boundy's desk, like people were saying they were, and they're not going to be released because they don't exist. So it's
Hypocrisy so sharp it could split the atom, and bald
that.
faced, no regrets about the whole thing, just awful. No
But it's how
credibility. No credibility. We should
no
not
credit.
listen to a thing these people say, and we should be ever suspicious because they lie without even provocation or apparent benefit. They just lie to lie because I think it's a tactic of disrespect to your enemy. I don't care enough about you to tell the truth, even on a inconsequential issue. I think that's just the game plan. And when these people come to debate to push their point or debate an issue, they have no credibility. It's unfortunate, but it's been proven 1,000 times over. It has been buffed to a high shine. It's it is over and done with logically, that you just can't argue. They will lie. They won't listen, and they lie, and it is wildly contributed to the divided partisanship in this country.
Yeah, and you're supposed to thank them for lying to you afterwards,
Absolutely.
because that's always very important. It was I think another way to say it
That's right.
is to bluff it to a high shine. That you, um, and carrying on to our next issue, there's an issue. Of course, we've talked. I mentioned it for a moment or two above, but we're talking about SNAP and the feeding of people. Uh, Not a few people. It's 1 in 8 Americans who are on these services to help make certain that they can get something to eat. And of course, the right says, well, there are people who don't do the right thing with it, so everybody should, suffer for that. And that's, of course, stupid and ridiculous and outrageous. And also, I don't know that it's particularly true. Once again, as you were saying, that kind of a bluff thing where they try to come up with, Reagan's welfare queen and an image that they can buy into so they can hate it, but not based on anything that's actually true, because it's mostly white people on welfare. But SNAP is another thing where the Trump administration is trying to use it as a wedge during the shutdown. They were already cutting the big beautiful bill, whatever that was, 180 what was it, 186 or 189 billion dollars were cut from the SNAP program already. Now they have the excuse of the shutdown. And, oh, okay, well, we can't do it at all. Well, that's not true. And in fact, the courts have stepped in, and they have said that you have to fund some of you have to fund SNAP to a degree, and it's not all of it, I don't think, but it is a portion of it. But the courts are saying this is not something to play around with. This has got to be taken care of. And do you know more about the half payment for SNAP benefits, or?
You know, I only know what I read in the news, and what I have read is that even though the judge can say what he likes, but the practical implementation of this is not so easy. For one, I'm told, or at least I've read, that it costs $8 billion to fund it for a month, and that there is only $4.5 billion in whatever fund there is. Uh, so I'm not. I understand that to be true. I'm not sure it is, but and so that's even if they wanted to pick up today and do everything expeditiously their little tiny hands could do to implement the judge's wishes. There isn't enough money, supposedly. I read somewhere today, someone conjectured, just speculated, that maybe they spent all that money on funding ICE, and they don't have it, and they're afraid to turn out their pockets. I don't know if it's that simple. I would think if the money's gone, we would know it even before we tried to cut a check. But maybe I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, that's a very well worn pattern for corruption, is to hide that you're screwing around with money, and everybody can believe it's true, but nobody can do anything until there's proof. And the proof is when you go back to look at the books. You have you
Right.
have a different CPA come in and look over the books, and all of a sudden you see that money's going from one place to another, and it's not supposed to. So that there has to be that sort of investigation to actually bring it up so that it can be dealt with. But what you're saying, I believe I've heard that as well. We may even have I don't know if we have a slide of, there's a little map of the country, and there's red along the
I
where
don't have
benefits
that.
are going.
Sorry to say.
I may not. Yeah, that's my fault. I apologize for that not being accessible. It was a Newsweek was the source for that, and but what we also do know and isn't hidden is that for the second time, SNAP, the Democrats have offered, well, let's see what we can do to get the full benefits up and moving, and we'll find a way to do it the right way through legislation, and we'll do this and we'll do that. And for the second time, that has been struck down by a Republican senator. In this case, the Senate Majority Whip, John Barrasso of Wyoming. He objected to the action moving forward, so it stopped it. That's sort of a filibuster almost sort of thing where
Mm.
one person can stop everything in the Senate, and the Republicans have worked that to the bone. That little play. Now there is a judge who we mentioned earlier that there was the court
Uh,
forcing.
are we moving on?
Not quite yet. I was going to go into
Okay,
the
sorry.
judge
Please
one.
continue.
Okay, so I'll try to make this a little bit shorter than uh, otherwise. So there is a federal judge, the same judge who said there had to be movement in some sort of benefits for SNAP, and that's the U.S. District Chief Judge John McConnell Jr. He has also said that this whole thing of Trump holding funds for transportation infrastructure week, for God's sake, it was the signature of his first term, infrastructure week. But he's using transportation funds
It's a thing
for
he said
voting.
a lot.
Yes, it is. And um, the illusion of infrastructure week was became such a joke that it was that it and has gone through not only his first administration, but here we are in the second, and it's continuing as well. But he was saying that Trump was going to hold transportation funds unless people agreed to his ICE stipulations, and allowing ICE in and allowing ICE to do what it does, being not being interrupted, all that kind of thing. And this judge said it's not gonna work. That is, he says, blatantly overstepping authority, and so Trump loses again in court with another judge holding him to task. The judge also called it lawless behavior and said the Constitution demands that it be shut down. So that is a victory in the courts. Let's see it translate to action in their neighborhood. But it is a good thing that the judges are standing up and they're providing a line of defense against this craziness, this whatever you want to call it. I guess wannabe despotism, maybe whatever you want to call it. It's good that there are judges like Judge McConnell out there who are willing to stand up to it. Now, so getting back to your point, I want to step on your to block what you wanted to say, but before we do go on to anything else, what are you thinking?
I just wanted to mention one more time that it's the holidays, and I'm not overly sentimental about the holidays. I could take it or leave it on balance, but when not only the travel thing, people are trying to travel to see loved ones they don't get to see very often, and people are making that harder and less safe. I was going to say unsafer. Uh, they're going to making it more difficult, less safe, more expensive, and anyway, I don't need to say any more. For the holidays, uh, you're taking things away from people. This is, maybe you only see a person once a year. Uh, maybe people get older and they can't fly as easy. You're taking real things away from real people, and it matters. And the same thing with Snap. I'm a frugal person. I don't like to spend money if I don't have to. I can easily imagine hundreds, thousands, millions of families expecting SNAP benefits so they can plot out their Thanksgiving meal. You know, they're planning when they can afford to buy a turkey. By everybody knows when they go on sale and things like that, and they've got it all planned out, and then they have no funds. Uh, Dastardly. It's peculiarly, specifically, especially evil, and they don't care, and it's great Gatsby parties. Anyway, I just wanted to put the one more holiday bow on that, just and note its passing as we move on to the next subject, because it's extra awful.
Yep, perfect, perfectly done. So the next issue is we've actually got even Republicans now who are noting that the House of Representatives being closed is not workable. It's not something that you can keep going on. And of course, if you listen to Mike Johnson, it's the Democrats who are not there when actually they're there and in their offices and waiting. And it's because the Democrats, I don't know, had peanut butter on their broccoli. What else is there? What else has he come up with? He's come up with a lot. But even Republicans now are saying this is beyond beyond where we need to go. And there's a Senator John Thune who has said they must amend the House of Representatives um, what's called the continuing resolution, the bill that funds the government when it's in this situation where there's a shutdown. There's a continuing resolution that says here we're going to still fund X, 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 and Y, and so Thune is saying you've got to either amend this one so that it continues, or you got to start with a new bill and come up with something that takes care of funding the government because we need to get back to work. And Speaker Johnson must call the House of Representatives back to vote on new funding data on new funding. Now, what's interesting is some of the more radical Republicans are starting to jump in behind that idea. Marjorie Taylor Greene has repeatedly publicly stated how disappointed she is with the Republicans and how disappointed she is with the men who are Republicans who are shutting down the government. Um, okay, there you go, fair point. And she's also been joined in that position by Dan Crenshaw, who's a Republican from down in Texas. Go figure. A Texan saying that there's a real problem with the government not working. And so with the Democrats saying we want to come back and we want to negotiate things, and with their own party members saying the Republicans' own party members saying we need to be at work. We can't be away this long
This is
and
some
just
bullshit. Yeah.
exactly and justify it in any way, shape, or form. It's certainly noteworthy, and we'll see if it can actually be effective. We'll see if Mike Johnson can be rattled from his uh, whatever world he's in, where everything is really the Democrats' fault, even when the Republicans control the presidency, the House, and the Senate.
And what world is he in, by the way? I would like to take 10 seconds and point and laugh at Mike Johnson. People keep asking him about things that have definitely happened in this country, in his wheelhouse, and he keeps saying, "I don't know. I haven't seen that. I haven't read that story. I've just been so gosh darn busy praying and not masturbating. I haven't seen that story. I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about this country or this job or this Congress or the president. I don't know what I said, and I don't know when I said it." The man claims. I mean, has he taken it? Is he Mitch McConnelling? Has he taken a head wound recently that we don't know about? Or I saw somebody posit this one good use for social media. So eventually somebody will have a good idea. Mike Johnson is super religious. He's super devout. He waves it around like a shield and a sword. And where was Jesus at on lying your ass off? Bald face, out the side of your neck, lying like a lying liar, lying like a rug, lying like a driveway, flat. Where was Jesus on that? Did the Bible say anything about being completely full of shit up to the top of your head? I have to think it said something somewhere. And he looks like Where's Waldo on, you know, business at a business networking seminar, and I'm not buying it. Anyway, he lies,
There's
and
also yeah, and
and
there's
he,
also
and he also holds himself up to be this moral paragon. I can't stand it.
right, exactly. And I am most certainly not an expert on biblical knowledge. Uh, so, but it is interesting. I think that there's something in there where the character you were talking about, Jesus, says something about uh, feeding the poor. Is that in there
Yeah,
somewhere?
welcoming the stranger. Uh, right. So yeah, some good stuff in there. I like that guy. We never really hear much about it lately. I think he was cleaning his gun when this all went down, and he was away. He was busy. He
Cleaning
was
his crucifix.
putting a flag up in his yard.
That's hilarious. Excellent. Fair point. Fair point. I am going to move us along to the next segment. Our second segment is Election Central Report.
Election
And
Central, everybody.
oh, nice. PolitiPod Live, in combination with Election Central, lets you know of upcoming elections from across the United States. A lot's happening in the South for this Election Central report. On November 15th, Louisiana, there are several parishes that are having their general election. The 4th had a lot of general elections in places across the country. Louisiana has theirs about a week and a half later. So that's what this is. In East Baton Rouge and New Orleans parishes, they're having their general election November 15th. November 18th, South Carolina has local and runoff elections. So elections where we mentioned before, there's a bunch of people running and two people get up to the top, but neither one gets more than 50%. That causes a runoff election. So November 18th, that's when South Carolina is looking at some of theirs. And it includes also a special primary runoff for South Carolina's House District 98. The Democratic nominee, Sonja Ogletree Santana, is an Air Force veteran, and she won outright with 58% of the vote in her primary. But the Republicans are the ones having the runoff because they did not have a candidate that broke 50%. So Brian Hill will face Greg Ford in a runoff. There's a special general election for Georgia's State Senate District 35. Miami has its local general runoff election. Arkansas has just a general election. And there'll be a special primary runoff for Alabama's House District 38. Looking out west, Oklahoma has its local elections. So there you go. They decided to skip out of it on November 4th, but on November 18th they'll have their chance to get to the polls and vote. And there's also a bit more attention I'll give to Alaska's election. The Ketchikan Gateway Borough School District has a recall election, and what's happened is three school board members are facing a set of allegations. The same allegations are being brought on all three of the elected officials. Uh, and so they're saying that there was not a, the budget was not in balance on a specific date, that there are not, that these board members were not overseeing the supervisor doing their job, and that these three were not part of overseeing the best qualified candidate receiving positions in the school district. On the ballot, you'll also find, if you happen to be in Alaska, the people who are who are under recall get to have their say, and that's printed on the ballot. So Judy Guthrie says the budgets are accepted annually by the state and have to be balanced for the state to accept them, and they have been. Uh, People can be hired once when they're vetted by a committee and so they go through both a committee and a hiring company. and she says the hiring company does an excellent job. Jordan Tab says that the allegations are there without any proof. The complainant was heard out at the time about the issues they're concerned about, but doesn't like the decisions that were made. And so that's how this recall came about. And there is something factual to that. Recalls are not based on allegations with proof. They're only if the complainant has enough signatures. Once they make any allegation, all they need is the signatures of voters who voted in the previous election, a certain percentage, 10, 20, whatever the percentage is. It changes by every municipality. But that's all you really need. You can say anything. You could say the guy's eating rocks and you don't like it. And that's good enough for a recall if you
Those are
get
my
this
rocks.
petition signatured.
Right.
Exactly. You can do that if you want. And so what Jordan Tab is saying is that's what's happening here. So these are a bunch of allegations. The person didn't like the decision, but that there's no proof of any wrongdoing. There's nothing that's actually gone out of whack here, and they shouldn't be. Well, so what he does say is he asked that a no vote be given on the recall. And Catherine Tadsuda, who's the board president, says that yes, they've been through some difficult times recently, but these board members have been on the job every day. There is no wrongdoing, just disagreement. All this does would be remove experienced leadership, and that's not what they need right now. She says, speak up, show up, and vote no. So, Ketchikan Gateway Borough School District voters, November 18th is your making the decision. Go vote. And I'm Matt Nisanoff with your Election Central Report. Thanks for listening. Almost every week there's an election somewhere in America. Get registered and go vote. That
Thank you,
brings
Matt,
us.
for that.
Thank you. And that brings us to our next, very far down on the list of things to talk about, is Donald Trump.
Who?
Yeah, I know the name from somewhere. Yeah.
As I'll always
yeah,
remember him. Horned.
perfect. Recently, Trump has promised to bomb Niger. He's saying that he wants to protect the Christian population of the country, and that the best way to do that is to bring the military in and start bombing.
Yeah, I'd like to
Which,
point out he's a true Reagan Republican at that point. Especially when Reagan said the most terrifying words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
well, with this line, I think it's better in the original Russian. I don't think it plays out as well in English, but I guess we will see. And just the fact that Trump would say Niger is danger already. We mentioned earlier during the election portion that Trump gave Cuomo his endorsement, and that was his endorsement was he's a bad Democrat, but he's better than anybody else. So that's a wonderful endorsement.
It
There
just
is,
rings, doesn't it?
I think it really speaks on his behalf for who he is. Then there's a question about Tomahawk missiles being sent to the Ukrainians, and this has come up a couple of times in the news. The most recent versions are that the Pentagon are saying, yeah, we're going to send Tomahawks to the Ukrainians. And whenever that pops up, about 24 hours later, the story comes out and says, well, Trump has said no. They're not going to send the Tomahawks, and maybe they will later, but they're not going to do it. And so it's a very, how much is, I don't know, some of it's PR maybe, some of it is trying to maybe send a message to Putin and get Putin to come to the table to speak with Trump and maybe even that other guy. Sometimes he includes Zelensky, sometimes
Oh,
not
was
so
there
much.
somebody else involved? I thought it was just Trump and Putin to figure out.
I mean, it's so much easier.
It really streamlines things. I don't think you've given it enough thought until you see it that way.
Yeah, yeah, get rid of that red tape. Streamline that experience.
Cut out the
This-
middleman. And by
That's
that, I
what
mean the middle of Ukraine.
a whole chunk of Donbass and Crimea. Um, right. So who knows what the motivation is? But those are the latest stories that are being floated. Pentagon says yes. Trump says no. We'll keep an eye on that for you right here on PolitiPod Live. Also, something. Oh, anything on either of those? The Niger bombing, or the Cuomo endorsement, or the Ukraine?
Uh, a Cuomo endorsement of who?
The Trump endorsing Cuomo.
Ah, no, sir. I think we've covered it.
All right. There is also the issue of the CBS 60 Minutes interview. Apparently, they're saying that they're going to release the full interview, which, there's been a bit of criticism of them. They apparently did the interview and then chopped it up. You ever seen the Japanese steakhouse guys? They pull out
Sure.
all the stuff and they put it on the frying and they chop it up and they, usually like
Right.
flip a shrimp into their hat. And
It's a juggling act with knives and food. Sure.
exactly, exactly. So they chopped up this thing like they worked at Benihana's,
Hmm.
and apparently somebody criticized them for it because it just so happens that this is the very thing that Trump sued and took a bunch of money from CBS over when that same thing happened with their interview of Kamala Harris. So I don't know. Apparently, when they do it with him, it's okay, or maybe it's a gender thing. I don't know.
Well, I think it's useful to point out, and you do point it out, and a lot of people I don't think pay attention to this layer of things. Is that everything that the Republicans want to do is a double standard? Rules for thee, but not for me. It's all a double standard. I want to have free speech, but I'm going to shut down your free speech. Uh, over and over. Well, and we tie ourselves into knots, hyperventilating about, well, what if? Just think if Barack Obama did this, or what if Biden said that about that guy the way this guy has? Oh, ho. Yeah, it all points to it's a double standard. They want rules to tie you up in knots, and they want to walk right through them unencumbered. And it's not how we do things. It's not okay, and we're not doing that. Some people I don't
Well,
think realize that in a practical front of mind frontal lobe sort of really understand that that's what they're looking at. And if you drink the Kool-Aid too fast, too deep, it makes sense to you and you buy it, but I don't buy it.
well, and then there is the question of if that's what he sued about when Harris's version was cut. Now his is cut. Does that give an opening to who would be the injured party who could sue over this?
Well, I hope it's someone who has control over the FCC and any future mergers. Otherwise, they're not really going to cut a lot of ice, even with the same. That's what I'm saying. There's always the double standard, even with the same set of conditions. Although they're not up against an election like Kamala was, but uh, other than that, identical conditions, different person doesn't work at all. That's not how this country's supposed to work. It's un-American.
Fair point. Fair point. And one last thing I'll say is that the broadcast version on 60 Minutes was 28 minutes long, and the full interview that they are now claiming that they will be releasing at some point or another will be 73 minutes. So all you Trump fans can have, I guess, like a interview party or something at the house and get some snacks set up, and I guess it would be all McDonald's,
I'll be there
and
early.
then
You bet. I want to get
and
the
then
director's cut, the DVD voiceover, all of it. Hot buttered popcorn. I'm down. This is all day. This is my Saturday.
that is a beautiful thing.
I can only
So
imagine that they took the best 28 minutes, What do you think that other, 40 minutes has in it? Is he just ranting like a lunatic? Because they took the stuff that made him look the least crazy, so the rest of it just has to be, innards on the butcher's floor. This has to just be offal. Has to be the junk. I can't wait to see it. He didn't look all that hinged in the 60 in the good bits.
Exactly. Yeah, I believe he calls it the weave.
Yeah,
You
where
get
he weaves in and out of consciousness and
the
reality.
weave
That's what he weaves.
reality. Yeah, for 40 minutes, you get the weave where he's talking about old old car parts and hot dog fillers and
And golfers' penises and
golfers.
sharks and batteries. Yeah. Yeah, he's weaving in and out of traffic is what he's weaving in and out of.
Hilarious. Very nice. And as we wrap up on Trump, we will also take a minute to jump into the next issue, and that is the passing of Dick Cheney, the former vice president and Blackstone stockholder. That may be. I think
Thought you
that's
were
what.
gonna say Blackstone Heart. I was gonna say I'll allow it.
I don't know that can be claimed at all. But there are some people saying, hey, he's dead, and you gotta, point out that that in these past couple of years, he's turned towards the defense of democracy, and that
Sure.
he brought up his daughters well, and that they're standing up in a very brave way against what's happening currently with the Trump administration, which is true. I mean, Liz Cheney lost her job, and she lost um,
To
her
principle,
standing.
Matt. How
Right.
about that? I got nothing nice to say about Liz Cheney or dear departed Dad Cheney, but okay, sure. Yeah, he was a no. He was he had, I don't know if you call it courage or principle or what it was that motivated him in the world of Republican politics. If you can look past all the other lizards and point at somebody and say that dude is a reptile, I mean, great. That's great. And he did. And as few and as rare are the examples of that, yeah, he stood out. And good for him for doing it. And damn all the other ones for not doing it. It's a positive note. It's we'll give him credit. As that is how paltry and pathetic my need is for public figures to stand up and call an obvious pile of dung a pile of dung. Thank you very much for that. But he also led to a lot of harm.
Yeah,
So
and he was, as vice president, he did incredibly cruel things in the name of helping to fund his friends. And when he was in public office, same thing. When he was in the Congress, horrible, horrible, corrupt things. And he finally gets to die because there's somebody who's worse. And so there's your epitaph. Um, Anything else before we wrap things up for tonight?
no, sir, I don't think I have.
Alrighty. Well, now, as we do when we come to wrapping up, we always like to check in on the count up of the Epstein list and how long it's
That's
been
right.
since the unredacted Epstein list has not been released. And today's number is 3,795 days and counting upward because it still has not been released. Thanks for joining us at PolitiPod Live for Political Talk. And if you want political laughs, you can join our monthly political comedy broadcast at soundcloud.com/politipod. Tom and I and another dozen folks put together a show with sketches and one-liners, and you'll also hear the latest election centrals there. So come on over and enjoy some laughs with us. And then, of course, see you back here Wednesday nights, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. This is Matt Nisanoff
And I'm Tom Bickle.
saying good night.